This is apropos. Tourism has long been a cornerstone of the US economy, but global perceptions are shifting. Stories of detained tourists, threats to annex Canada and Greenland, and the Trump administration's strained relations with Europe are turning travelers away. Analysts at Goldman Sachs warn the US could lose up to $90 billion in revenue this year from decreased visits and cancelled purchases. France 24's Wassim Cornet reports now from Los Angeles, where the impact is already being felt.
In the spring sunshine of Venice Beach, Charlotte is showing Sandra and Fabrice around this quintessential part of Los Angeles.
We can divide his life into three parts. The first part as an Austrian immigrant who came to the US without a penny.
This couple from northern France is spending nearly a month in the U.S., undeterred by the fires earlier this year or Donald Trump's immigration crackdown.
We did our research online and we talked to relatives, but we told ourselves we'd form our own opinion in person, and we have no regrets.
But Charlotte, who has been guiding French tourists in California for 3 years, says not everyone is feeling as adventurous.
We're already starting to feel some hesitation about coming to the US. Some people are worried, others are canceling. There's already a slight drop in numbers.
According to a recent study, French travelers' intentions to visit the United States have dropped by 25% compared to this time last year.
Right now, it's really the new administration that's scaring people. They're afraid of going through customs. They're afraid things will go wrong once they're here.
And it's not just French tourists who are feeling skittish about the U.S. Across the board, travelers are thinking twice, and the numbers speak for themselves. International arrivals to the U.S. were down more than 11% this March compared to last year, with even sharper drops from Europe and Central America. In Hollywood, tour operators like Chris Leschinger say they're already feeling the effects, especially from neighbors up north who have been threatened with a trade war and annexation.
We found a lot of people that were getting our ads from Canada were not so happy to be getting them. They didn't really want to come to the U.S., and they had a lot of very colorful things to say about not wanting to travel.
Down the block, it's not just tourists who are disappearing. Supplies are getting more expensive too.
March 25th, the colored t-shirt per dozen was $40, and April 22nd, 2025, colored t-shirt became like $48 per dozen.
That increase, a direct consequence of the Trump administration's tariffs on China. That's where many of the souvenirs sold here are produced, with vendors increasing prices and businesses having to make tough choices.
I probably cut off my employee hour, so I have to put more hour for myself.
With the current administration showing little sign of backing down, the outlook for U.S. tourism is growing increasingly overcast.
Well, let's speak to Isaac Collazo, who's a vice president of analytics for STR, a company that looks at market data for hotels. Great to have you on the program, Isaac. Thank you so much for joining us. So that report that we just saw really focused on Los Angeles, but we are seeing a downward trend in visitor numbers across the US at the moment. Like I said, you do observe market data in the hotel industry. What have you been seeing on your side?
Actually, just too early to tell at this point. We're not seeing a decrease per se. So March was a little weaker than February and January, but it was still a very good first quarter. So again, it's very early days in this new administration and some of the policies that are changing and how people are perceiving them. But again, right now, the industry is holding up pretty well for the first quarter.
Okay, we have been seeing reports from several outlets who are reporting that there has been some decline, specifically on the number of Canadians visiting the US. Compared to this time last year, we've seen a 32% drop. Let's talk about the industry as a whole. I mean, the tourism industry does represent 2.5% of the US's GDP, and experts are predicting that if this downward trend that they've been observing on their side continues, it could lead to billions of dollars being lost in revenue. What kind of a blow would that have to the tourism industry?
Yeah, anything that dampens demand has a blow, right? It does hurt the livelihoods of many people because not only do you have housekeepers, you have managers, you have F&B, you have so many other things that go into a hotel, into the experience itself, as you're seeing the pictures here. So yes, anything that dampens demand will have an impact. But what we're seeing right now, again, for the U.S., demand in the first quarter was up 1%. And so some of that, again, was in February and January. But you also have to think about March. March was weaker because of the shift in Easter, which does have an impact as well. So for us, as we're looking at the data, it's very murky right now. Again, yes, we're watching all the inbound, we're watching all the data on a weekly basis, but it's still just too early to tell how much the impact will be. And what I worry about as an analyst, I lead the analytical group here at STR, is a lot about recency bias. People are seeing headlines and right away are saying, oh, the worst is coming. Well, it may or may not be. We just don't know at this point. And to kind of put it in context, international inbound for the hotel industry is about 5% of all rooms sold in a given year. And we hadn't recovered back to 2019 levels. And so right now, the forecasts are really that the inbound will be about at 23 levels. So again, very difficult to tell at this point. The data still looks surprisingly good, if you want to use that word. And again, we'll just have to watch it and monitor it.
Well, as I was saying before, we have seen preliminary data from the Canadian government showing that visitors from Canada has dropped just in the early months of this year. Canada is one of the most, well, the international visitors from Canada come to the US most often.
Right.
I want to talk about, this drop and what it's coming from. I mean, we've had Trump announcing tariffs on Canada. We've also had him threatening to annex Canada. And just in the aftermath of those tariffs that were announced, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau did urge citizens to not buy products from the US, to buy domestic products, and also to vacation within Canada's borders. Can we take this data that we're seeing as evidence that Canadians listened to Trudeau?
I think yes, I would imagine there are some that are definitely listening and will not come to the U.S. And again, a lot of the U.S. trips tend to be day trips as well. You got to remember that they're counting that as well. But again, from the hotel side, we're not seeing it. And the way I think about it, it's what people say and do are two different things. I mean, we all travel globally many years. And again, we know that people are not exactly representative of their political structures or their government, right? And so I think we'll see some people put that astride and say, hey, I really want to go to Universal Epic or wherever in New York City or LA. And it just depends on how you feel. And again, what people say and do can be two different things. So yes, we are seeing the declines. There's no doubt. But I think we'll just have to wait and see. I keep saying that because, again, we're not seeing it as much right now. Now, some hotels are. Some hotels say they are seeing that, like in Niagara Falls, but it's not widespread at this point. We are monitoring both hotels on both borders, the Mexican and Canadian borders, since they're the ones most adjacent, and then we're monitoring everything from inbound as well. And I think April is going to be a hard month to judge again because of the Easter shift. It'll really be May, June, July when we see the summer travel that we'll be able to make a determination of how much of an impact the environment has had on people's desire to visit the United States.
Well, we hope that things continue to be positive from what you have been saying. Isaac, really great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for breaking things down for us here at World Roundup. Stay tuned.